Hello YouTube, Oliver G here from the Earful Tower, and we are walking in the second arrondissement. What you can see now is the first of 3 covered passages that we're going to walk through, these old arcades which I love. The third one, Galerie Vivienne, is particularly beautiful. Now the end of this walk, you're going to see probably my favorite library in the world as well, the Salle Ovale in the Richelieu Bibliothèque, the National Library of France. So put that on your list of things to see. It's really wonderful. Otherwise, this will be a stroll through the second arrondissement of Paris. The audio you're going to hear is from when I spent a day in this district with my wife for the Earful Tower podcast's countdown season. Now, this whole YouTube season you're watching is sponsored by the LivTours company, LivTours. And I asked them for their recommendation for the second arrondissement, and here's what they said. This compact and eclectic little neighborhood is full of great food and quite a few covered arcades. The most spectacular covered arcade, in our opinion, is Galerie Vivienne. Bingo, we'll see that one soon. Enter via Rue des Petits Champs and soak up the lovely atmosphere of the Petit Bistrot, the mosaics, the stained glass, and the perfect little shops. If you want to keep shopping, window or otherwise, then walk from north to south down Rue Montorgueil. This classic Parisian street oozes charm. Let it carry you out of the second towards Les Halles and the river, and all of a sudden you're upon the Louvre Museum. Let the momentum of the perfect morning carry you into one of the greatest art collections in the world. They're totally right with all their tips there, including that you should check out their tours. I've linked below their semi-private and their private tours of the Louvre Museum, as well as all their other tours in Paris. Now let's continue this walk in the second arrondissement. Enjoy the show and see you next time for the first arrondissement. And take 2. I say take 2 because for the first time in years I deleted our recording of the podcast. So we're just starting from fresh. We have no other choice. But it's fitting that for the second arrondissement, where the theme is 2,
we have to take 2.
Yes. There's going to be, to keep things interesting for me and Lina, we've sort of going to introduce this 2 theme a little bit more than we did last time.
Yeah.
Keep us on our 2 feet.
Very good.
But for everybody at home, if you're joining us for the first time, or maybe the second, this show is called The Earful Tower. My name is Oliver G.
I'm Lina Norton G.
And we've been going around all the 20 arrondissements of Paris. We finally made it to the second.
Yes.
So we've gone from 20 all the way to 2. This episode is going to be us explaining the vibe of the second arrondissement, the smallest of all districts.
And a little explanation of what we did when we spent our time there.
And perhaps what we didn't do or didn't want to do or think you guys shouldn't do.
Yeah.
A little bit of tips, honest tips.
A little helpful guide, hopefully.
And then we'll be giving our score out of 100 as usual. Usually I'd say, I wonder what you scored, Lina, but I know what you scored. To keep things a little bit interesting as well, we'll flip it up how we do it. We'll sort of interview each other a little bit, I think.
All right, yeah.
And let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Ready for a little bit of music from the matryoshka of music himself?
Yeah, I am.
Here comes Press Maxon's take on a song which has a connection to the second arrondissement. See if you can figure it out. Here we go. Press Maxon. There he is again. I'll read a little bit more from his email in a second, but I want to get straight into the second arrondissement. Let's describe it a little bit. Tiny.
Yes.
We walked from the top to the bottom in like 15 minutes, less probably. Bustling?
Yeah, definitely bustling.
I sensed a certain nostalgia when we were there.
Yeah.
And you know why?
Well, we used to live there.
For the first 2 years of our time in Paris. We lived on a street called Rue Greneta.
Yeah.
Greneta.
And it's just off Rue Montorgueil, which is like the pedestrian street that is like It's just amazing.
I used to call it the best street in Paris until we moved right next to Rue des Abbesses in Montmartre, which became the best street in Paris.
And then
we moved to the 7th.
And what happened then?
Well, we moved we moved near Rue Claire, which has become the best street in Paris. But the best street...
It's got a little theme here.
Well, I think the best street should have memories and there should be a reason. And if you live there and walk there all the time, then that's
You got to switch it up as well.
Yeah.
For sure.
When we moved to the 14th afterwards...
Excuse me?
I did like the 14th.
You did.
So about the 2nd, we could spend all day describing it to you, but instead I'll get someone who has a restaurant there to tell us. You're about to hear the voice of Oliver Woodhead. He runs a restaurant called L'Entente, Le British Brasserie, and the full disclosure, we didn't eat there because I thought it was in the 1st arrondissement. And then when we stumbled upon it, him and I have been back and forthing for a long while. We stumbled upon it at the end of the night, and I was like, here you are. Well, we'll come back and eat one day, but if you don't mind, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the district and on your restaurant. So you're about to hear us standing out the front of his place, and I started by asking him about the 2nd arrondissement. Okay, Oliver, from one Oliver to another, you are an expert on the 2nd, at least your restaurant is here. So perhaps you could explain it to someone who's never been here before.
Well, the 2nd arrondissement is quite particular. It's the smallest in Paris, with the least amount of residential people, but it has the highest number of CAD, upper management, who come and work here during the day. So residential, very few. During the day, it completely swells, 4 times the size. Everyone working, everyone coming for, in theory, business lunches.
That's good for a restaurant.
It's great for a restaurant.
And we'll talk about
when they're not télétravail, working from home. But what's interesting about the 2nd is it's sort of almost the poor man's first, but it's wedged in between obviously the Louvre, the Opera, and the Bourse, which is just down the road, 2 blocks away from us. And it used to be the financial centre of Paris, and then it all moved out west towards La Défense with the big towers, but you know, going back to this upper management, all the head offices are still here in the 2nd. But it also has this massive cultural pull because you've got the fashion Place Vendôme just a few blocks away, but you've also got nowadays a lot of media offices, Airbnb, Facebook. So there's quite a lot of tech happening around.
It feels like it's got a lot of neighbours. Like it's got this over there, this over there.
Absolutely, a bit like Republique with its 4 arrondissements around it. The
Right.
2nd is very much that. It's, you know, sure, we're the 2nd borders the 3rd, but the Marais is a whole different world away. But it does border the 2nd.
But that's last week. That's last week, the 3rd. I want to ask you about for tourists coming here. Is it the kind of place tourists should come, or is it kind of no, leave it for the working?
Oh no, absolutely no, very very much. I mean, you can't avoid it geographically. Pretty much the centre of Paris, so there's no escaping it. You have to almost pass through. If you're going up 2 blocks down from us, there's a lovely vista of looking at Montmartre just up the hill, and it feels that it's just that other side of the church. A few minutes this way, we're at Opera. A few more minutes that way, you're by the river. Further up the road, you're on the Rue de Nil. So we're really very. Everyone can get to the 2nd arrondissement within quarter of an hour on a bicycle.
Centre of Paris, centre of the world. Now, I want to say, when people do pass through Paris, one option they have is going to L'Entente, which is your restaurant. I seem to remember Le Figaro said that your fish and chips was one of the 100 meals everyone should try before they die. Is that it?
Yes, that is it. They did say that.
So where do you get the nerve as an Englishman serving fish and chips to French people and making a...
Very good question. And eggs and bacon on the weekend, and eggs bennies and beef Wellington and shepherd's pies and all this. Because we always fall back on what we know, right? And 25 years in Paris and also here, and 18 years in hospitality industry. You know, hearing how the bad reputation of British food has, I had to do it really, and it's. I always knew that we just simply had to do the best we possibly could with no cheating, amazing French terroir produce, but British traditional cuisine, and except the cheese, which we do bring in from the UK as well, which is complicated after Brexit, but we've found a way, hacked the system, and but we are a Parisian restaurant. Just with a very much with a British soul, and I'd say 90% of our customers are French. Out of that 90%, maybe let's say a third of them have connections to the UK one way or another, and who are getting their fix. The rest of them are curious, and then there's a sort of expats and tourists who come who just want. Maybe they've had enough French restaurants in their stay, or maybe they don't get their pie, or they need their beef welly fix or something. And I have to say, our brunches as well, from when I used to work in New York, are pretty crazy. And we do 3.5 services, and I stop reservations on Thursday. And
I've got a question. I'm interested. You talk about that 10% of expats and tourists. What about people listening to your voice right now in countries like Australia, America, other countries around the world, Canada, New Zealand? And they're thinking, why would I come to Paris and eat British food? How could you convince them?
Well, I always find it a bit strange when Brits come to Paris for the weekend for the Tour de France or the rugby or whatever, and they make a beeline for here. It's kind of sometimes it's what they know, and that's the comfort food. But no, I would say totally. Don't come to me first. Go to many different French restaurants. Experience that first, and then if you want, a breakfast that's quite substantial that sets you up. A brunch on Saturday and Sunday, or your third or fourth night, and you fancy something different, and and it's your comfort zone. Or the staff are bilingual. The menu's in English first, then in French. French produce, don't forget, Parisian restaurant, but with dishes that are comfort food done really rather well. Sometimes that's just what you want, to fall back on and have a really smart, casual experience, where everything's, clean and dickety-boo.
And on that note, I'm going to go in and taste one of these wines that I know you're very proud of. So thank you for your time, Ollie / Oliver, from one Oliver to another. And thanks for having me inside the restaurant.
Thank you.
It's nice to have a British accent on the podcast.
Yeah, so friendly.
It's almost like it's a sneak peek into next week, where there will also be a British accent on the podcast.
Have you said too much?
Have I said too much? So that's Oliver Woodhead. You'll hear more about L'Entente in the near future. Otherwise, if you're in Paris and you're hankering for some British food, go and check them out. Back to that music that we just heard from Press Maxim. Did you know who it was by?
I did, actually.
What's your guess?
Well, my guess is that it's J'ai deux amours.
Deux amours!
Deux amours by none other than Josephine Baker,
yes.
who you visited.
JB.
The other day, JB.
Yeah.
Visited, her tomb.
I paid my respects at her tomb in the Pantheon, in the 5th district, which, as you'll remember if you're listening carefully, skip the queue by buying your tickets online. Literally skip past the long queue. Never has there been an easier decision than visiting a monument quickly like that one by buying those tickets. Now, I'm going to read you the email from Press.
Okay.
This is what he said. He said, the earful musical soundtrack for the deuxième is the song J'ai deux amours, as you said, Lena, by Josephine Baker. Her two, in this, Press has capitalized the word 2 second deux. I say deux, in French, the word is deux for second. Yeah. But if it's followed by a word like amour, you do the little liaison.
Put a little S on it.
Yeah, an S sound. Anyway, it's an X. J'ai deux amours by Josephine Baker. Her two loves being her country and Paris. For the second and final tune of this track, Thomas is one of two famous Dutron. The other, of course, is his dad, Jacques, as heard in our episode on the 5th. Well, lots of in-jokes here.
Yeah, wow. It really is a matryoshka.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. It's just, it's one big knot.
He continues, he's also the son of two famous French singers. His mother is Françoise Hardy. Musically, our 2-song track features 2 keys, a 2-instrument introduction lasting 2 seconds, 2 soloist instruments, piano and guitar, and 2 accordion features on the melody.
Oh, wow. 2 big applause for that.
That was 3. You did 3. Press Maxim's music. We're getting a handful, more than a handful of people saying they want the soundtrack to this season. We'll work on something. It's in the back of my mind that it would be really cool to make. I know CDs are from 50 years ago, but wouldn't it be cool to make one-off CDs? Not as a way to make money or anything, just to have 1,000 or something.
Oh, wow, 1,000.
Well, how many are you meant to do?
I don't
you
know.
make 50. The 51st person will be very angry.
It's true.
Yeah, we'll think about it. That's for another conversation.
Back to the second.
Yeah, back to the second. A little bit more about the vibe, and then we get into what we did.
Sure.
It's like Oliver said, lots of neighbors. And it feels like there's this kind of vibe. Maybe, do you think it's influenced by its cool friends in the nearby 9th and the 1st and so on?
So it's this kind of like taking a little piece out of the other ones
Yeah,
around
if you're
it.
hanging out with someone really cool...
Do you feel like it has no identity? Is that
No,
what
that's what I was asking. Like, if you hang out with a really cool person, you become cool by proxy, right? Do you think that's what happened with the second? Having all these neighbors, it picks up a little bit.
So you're saying it doesn't have a lot going on?
I'm not saying I think you're reading into. I'm asking you what you think, or do you think it's more like a big soup where all the ingredients are in the nearby arrondissement?
I feel like it's a big soup. I think it has 2 feet to stand on.
Yeah, 2.
It does. It has nothing to be ashamed of.
I noticed when we lived there,
Except the lack of parks.
yeah, let's
Yes.
talk about that.
Shame on you, second.
There's one park, the square Louvre, something like
Yeah,
that.
with the big fountain.
Not much going on there.
Nah, except the fountain.
The other thing is, we can talk about it when we get to the restaurant, but a fantastic restaurant has done something very tacky that I would have taken points off.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that at the end.
Yeah, it is that bad.
Are you ready to talk about what we did?
I am.
Okay, Lina, to keep this interesting, I think we keep with the 2 theme and do everything in pairs.
Okay.
So, for example, coffee.
Yeah.
2 places that we went to. Mm-hmm. We talk about one each. You can talk about Zouzou.
Okay, so we started...
Zouzou, 2.
Stop.
It doesn't end.
We actually chose between Zouzou and Mata Mata.
Oh, wow.
What is going on?
What is that called when they do, like words like Zaza, couscous,
I don't know.
Zuzu, Mata Mata?
Funky?
Yeah, funky.
Yeah.
What did you think about it, Lily? Did you like it?
I did. I thought it was it's such a friendly lady who runs it.
Yep.
It was like quite modern, Scandi interior, nice gluten-free, vegan sort of, menu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's been there for
Would
about
go
5
back.
years, run by French people. Yep. It's on one
about
of those
you?
quiet streets just off Montorgueil, like a pedestrian street.
Between Montorgueil and Rue Montmartre.
Yeah, really nice.
Which is also really, really nice too.
That
for a
whole
little stroll.
area, that's what... You know what we should do?
Yeah, what?
Heat maps
Yes.
of Paris.
Definitely.
I've been wanting
heat
to do
maps.
this forever.
Yeah, but you know what we should do? Heat maps for like all the different, what do you call it? Criteria? How we're scoring.
Yeah.
And
Like
different colors for
strollability.
them.
So you have the whole map
It's
of
like
Paris.
a psychedelic.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like a tie-dyed t-shirt of Paris.
Wow.
So like where it's really strollable, it's sort of
It's going to turn like...
deeper blue.
Yeah, and if that also hits where it's really expensive and really shareable, whatever, it's going to turn into brown.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So this, my coffee that I want to talk to, you didn't pop into it. Starbucks.
Yeah, that's all you.
Starbucks, yeah. I wouldn't usually recommend Starbucks at all. There's lots of small, independent, beautiful places in Paris. But this one, number 3, Boulevard Capucines. I say the address. All the addresses and links will be in the show notes, as always. But this is the most beautiful, the most opulent, decadent Starbucks on planet Earth.
Ugh, I mean, you showed me a couple of pictures. It looked incredible.
It is as if Marie Antoinette's bedroom became... No, that's not good enough. I say that. When I said that out loud, I'm thinking like gold walls and a big bed in the middle. Nothing like that. It's like... it's kind of... It's very dark and black with big black sort of pillars and then this like celestial blue ceiling with angels dancing around. Enormous.
Wow.
You walk in, there's the Starbucks bit on the left.
Yeah.
Where I guess you're meant to buy coffee. I didn't. I just walked straight in. And I was gobsmacked. I was floored. Yeah, really beautiful.
Wow, I have
Hard
to
to
go.
describe. Yeah, must go.
Okay.
Not too far from the Opera, the Opera Garnier.
I see. Maybe a little pre-opera coffee so you can stay awake.
It's open
if
late
it happens
too.
to
You know
be
what? There are a
not
lot
too
of
entertaining.
there are a lot of people. Yeah, there are a lot of people doing. What do you call it when they sit and work? What's that called?
Co-working?
Co-working space.
I think.
Yeah, I wonder if they like that in there. The Starbucks too.
Yeah.
Who knows? Another 2. I can do this one quicker. Pastries. 2 really good pastries. One is Stohrer.
Yes.
Yeah, it's. I think it's
Fair
the
enough.
oldest bakery in Paris, definitely. Maybe France. Their croissants are excellent. Really beautiful interior as well.
Yeah, it's the best croissants. They are dense. They are so like heavy. There's a lot of dough in that.
Even when they're fresh, you could use it as a weapon.
Oh yeah, in the best kind of way.
Another kind of pastry shop just up the road, friends of the show, Boneshaker.
Yes.
So everyone probably knows, I've had Amanda on the show before talking about her donuts on the Rue Aboukir. They've moved the donut shop to a bigger venue 20 steps up the road. And now their old venue, they sell brownies. They also do very good coffee.
They do.
So go and check those guys out, Boneshaker. And as far as I know, they name one of the donuts after me, the OG.
I love it.
Every time I ask Amanda, she says, yes, darling. Yes, it's named after you.
Of course.
And I take that.
Yes.
Okay, the other thing that's really cool about the second is the passages, the covered passages.
Yeah.
So think back 200 years, really muddy, full of horse poop. No one could really go walking in Paris. That's a lie. There were sidewalks that sort of come into play a little bit then. But to go shopping, it was an effort, right?
Yeah.
They started making covered passages, 150, 200 of them back in the day. Now there's about, I don't know, a dozen that remain, and most of them are in the second arrondissement.
Yeah. And often they're so beautiful. But it's cool. They have like... there's a passage for everyone. Well, they really have different identities, don't you think?
That. Let's pick one each, and then we've got a pair.
Okay.
Which would you like to recommend? Because we must have gone to them all.
I mean, how about I start with the main one, the classic Galerie Vivienne. I think it is such a beautiful example of a covered passage, or passages, because there are a few of them.
That's
there.
Right. It's
like intersect.
It's like an ant house or something. An ant hill.
And it's got these amazing little shops.
Not to mention the mosaics on the
mosaics.
On the floor.
I mean, it's just a piece of art, really.
You can't really go wrong.
Some nice restaurants. Yeah, no, it's great. I love that one.
I would recommend the Passage, I think it's Passage des Panoramas. That is a curiosity.
It is
haven.
cool.
It's got everything from...
It feels very Harry Potter-ish, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
It really does.
It's got everything from, like, they sell old postcards and, like, clocks and watches and stuff to hip and happening restaurants. One restaurant had a stuffed, like, a taxidermy wolf with wings.
Yeah.
In the window.
It says it all, doesn't it?
That does say it all.
Yeah.
That one's really cool. That's if you want surprise packages. One. And what a nice...
There's also another really good coffee shop in that one. It's the Arabica. Yeah.
I actually went to a restaurant when you went home with Otis. I went to a restaurant in the Passage du Panorama, as I told you. It's called the Victoria Station. And this, we talked about this on the podcast before. It was like it was just a very typical restaurant, except they designed the interior to look like a train, like a wagon, a cabin.
Yeah.
Not a cabin, like the inside of a train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carriage?
Yeah, carriage, that's the word. So you go in, it's quite tight, you walk through, there's like suitcases that they've put up on the top.
It's a gimmick.
Yeah, a gimmick, but...
Do you feel like it worked?
I don't know.
Like yes and no?
Well... I'll tell you what, the food was just very average. Super, super average food. But they didn't go all in. Like, they didn't have, like, the waiter wasn't a conductor.
Yeah, it would have been cool if they're like, have you got your tickets or something?
That would be way cool. Or if the receipt came on it. Or if they you don't want it to be...
I mean, there's definitely an opportunity there to make more of it.
Because it's kind of like they went so far 80% into the gimmick. Not that I want them to come along and go, choo-choo, what do you order?
I mean, I wouldn't mind that.
But they could, they could have had the pizzas.
Would you go back?
Definitely not.
Oh, okay.
I would definitely go back. I would never go back.
Okay.
But it was fun. Like, if you go for the store.
I mean, when we walked past there later in the day, we looked in and I was like, oh, it's so cool.
You know who I'd recommend it to? People who do things for the story, that's me. I do everything for the story. Yeah. So if you want to come home from your trip and say to your friends, I ate in a train carriage in the middle of a cool passage. Yeah. This place is for you. For some fun pictures. Yeah. But if you're the kind of person that wants to go to a restaurant because it has an amazing big fountain out front and you hear the food is fancy, then it's not for you. You would probably like the Fontaine Gaillon in the second arrondissement. Yes, that was me. I picked that one. Tell me why. Well, I mean, I've walked past it so many times, and it's this restaurant has this
beautiful fountain on the wall on the outside, and around it
like
is
a fountain with a big old Cupid sort of thing in the
yeah,
middle.
exactly.
Yeah.
It just looks really incredible. Around it, there are these white parasols, and under the white parasols, you sit and, I mean, all these people, they sit and they drink crisp white wine on tables covered with crisp white linen. You know, it just looks
Perfectly
beautiful.
polished knives and
surrounded
forks,
by
yeah.
these like lush bushes.
Yeah.
It just looks incredible. And I always been like, oh, I have to go there.
It's like the restaurant was built into the fountain almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
And it feels like, I don't know, like an Italian garden party, but like right in the city.
What did you know about the food?
Nothing.
Uh-huh.
Nothing.
So you were
nothing.
like me then. You also went for the setting.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you think of the food?
I mean, firstly, we didn't sit outside because it started to rain,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And I think this place is all about the outside. The food, you know.
That's quite a review.
Yeah, no, okay. Well, it's supposed to be really good.
Yeah.
I think they have like quite a famous chef. I'm not sure, but yeah, they were talking about him.
Yeah.
But it was like, you know, a bit overcooked here, a bit too salty there.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think?
Are we food snubs?
No.
Just for the people at home?
No,
I don't
no,
think
no,
so.
no.
We appreciate a meal as much as the next person.
Fella, yeah.
No, but it was
But I'd
definitely
go
lacking
back
something.
if I could sit outside
Interesting.
and have a glass of wine in the shade.
There's one thing that we haven't talked about, the culture fix. And I did this one by myself.
Yeah.
And we picked a museum. I picked a museum called LivTours, Jean sans Peur.
I love how that rolls off the tongue.
Jean sans Peur.
Jean sans peur.
Which translates to like John, I guess.
Fearless John.
Fearless John. And am I allowed to get nerdy on this podcast or what?
Sure, it's your podcast.
Okay. You can rein me in if it gets
Okay,
out of
okay,
control.
okay.
What's cool about this on paper, and you can be the judge of whether this is something for you or not, but it's built on the Philippe Auguste wall. For you walnuts out there, walnut is someone who loves the old walls of Paris. I'm one of them. Walnuts with 2 L's, mind you. 2! It's built on one of the towers. It used to be on the wall, and it was built maybe 200 years later. So we're talking 600-year-old tower, roughly, a big sort of square tower that we must have, I don't know, let's say 150 steps to get to the top.
Okay.
That tower is the museum, essentially. Now, I went in there because I wanted to see the old Philippe Auguste Tower. I talked to the staff. They're walnuts in there too. They let me in, which isn't part of the museum. It's like an office storage room now. That was cool. The rest of the museum's like middle age. Is it worth visiting? Only if you're a middle-aged nut.
Okay, or a walnut.
Or a walnut, for sure.
Sure.
€6 though. Cheap,
Yeah.
probably the cheapest
If
Central
you don't
Paris
speak
museum.
French, happy?
You know you're screwed.
You're not happy? Okay.
Well, it's a tough one. What was cool, like I went in the bottom, it was like sort of cartoon images of like jesters from the Middle Ages and a little bit of information in French. I was like, no, I'm not even going to read it.
Yeah.
I started climbing the tower, but every stage of the tower got more interesting. It was pretty cool. There was one fascinating medieval, they said it was the only one of its kind left, I think, where I don't know how you describe it, but it was like sculpted in sort of stone really beautifully, like flowers on the ceiling.
Okay.
In the staircase, looked really cool.
Oh, wow.
Really worn steps from the centuries. Like that part was beautiful.
From like the past 800 years or so.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then the further up you went, it got hotter because there's no windows, which was kind of like by the top it was sweltering. Not wheelchair friendly.
No, it doesn't sound friendly at all.
I'll tell you what else wasn't friendly. They had these weird statues in there showing the clothes of the time, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't put faces on the like mannequins. Rather, there was just this gaping hole with like mesh where the face was, but not a face, just it was like a horror thing. That was weird. You would like the costumes though. There were some really cool costumes.
Yeah, maybe I'll go back just to see that.
You know what my favorite though was? Was the furry Chewbacca like army camouflage man from 600 years ago.
You did actually show me that one, and it looks, I mean, it's exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Chewbacca is just so weird.
It's so
It's so weird. It, like,
with a mesh face as
it's
well.
like, yeah, it's like a full bodysuit of hay that is free flowing.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
That's the most
It's like-
unexpected thing in the second arrondissement, besides the wolf with wings.
Yeah.
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 Anyway,
Very odd.
let's finish it off with a definite restaurant recommendation.
Yeah.
And this is going to be dedicated to the friendly American man we sat next to in the 8th arrondissement for dinner at Maxime's. He won't. I don't think he'll be a listener because I didn't tell him about the show or anything. But you know, the quickest way to get the correct answer to anything on the internet is to put out the incorrect answer, which is what I did. Remember, we sat down next to him, and I said, "Oh, what brought you to Maxime's?" And he said, "Well, I've just watched the Jack Nicholson movie As Good as It Gets with Diane Keaton. And in that movie, there's a famous scene in this very restaurant."
Yeah, he was chuffed.
He was chuffed to be sitting there.
Yeah.
He was singing the music from the movie.
Oh yeah, he was having the time of his life.
He really was. And then I mentioned that on the podcast and social media, and you wouldn't believe how many messages I got saying, no, it wasn't Maxime's, it was Le Grand Colbert in the second arrondissement.
Oops. Well, he was still happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it happy but wrong?
Yeah.
What's that called?
I don't know.
Still happy. Anyway, we saw this place, Le Grand Colbert, and we went there for dessert, which is something we've tipped about on the podcast before.
Yeah, split up the dinner.
Yeah, split up. Such a good, best thing you can do
It
to
is.
experience lots of things in Paris, especially if you're only here for 5 or 6 days or something.
Yeah, why commit?
Don't commit. Don't commit.
Unless you absolutely love it, of
Yeah,
course.
sure. But sometimes you get it wrong, as we have too.
Yeah.
The only downside, first maybe the plus side or no, I'll start with the downside.
Okay.
This is what I sort of mentioned at the start of the episode, that I could not understand. For such a classy, beautiful, probably highly ranked restaurant, why on earth, at the entrance, inside the window, the first thing you see is like an A3 blown up, terrible quality, pixelated movie poster.
Yeah,
for
it's
As
like
Good
a
As It
home
Gets.
printout.
Jack Nicholson has never looked so bad.
No, I mean, he's all pixelated. You can barely see it's him.
I couldn't tell who was Diane Keaton and who was Jack Nicholson. It wasn't that bad, but
It looked like it was Maxime.
Maxine. The problem with it is if you have a cool story, like if they filmed Jack Nicholson in your restaurant, you don't brag about it.
No, be cool.
It's part of the mystique.
Yeah.
And you don't put it out the front.
So off.
What are they saying with that? They're
don't
saying,
know.
are you like a Disneyland tourist? Come on in.
It's just so bad.
Yeah.
Apart from that, very nice.
You know
really
what,
liked it.
What I could contrast it with?
Yeah.
In the Fontaine de Mars, the restaurant in the 7th arrondissement, rumor is that's Robert De Niro's favorite restaurant.
Yeah, I know.
Do you think they got a picture of Robert De Niro out the front?
Definitely not.
No. Yeah.
Because they know better.
The plus side of the Colbert is jaw-dropping. Jaw-dropping, beautiful. The same mosaic tiles from the Vivienne that we mentioned before.
Yeah.
Lovely restaurant, just visually.
Oh, it's so nice.
Like if you can't...
Bustling.
Bustling restaurant. If it's out of your budget, because I think it was a little... We just had dessert, but even that was pricey.
Yeah.
Do you remember the prices? I feel like it's like 15 for a...
There's something like that.
15 for a dessert, something like that. You can look in the window and appreciate it. You can even pop in and just have a quick look, and they don't really mind.
It is so lovely.
And then it looked fun. Like it was one of those classic Paris places where like the waiters and the waitresses are really sort of putting on a show.
Yeah.
You know, you could see some people eating the seafood in the high, whatever you call that.
Plateau.
The plateau platters.
Yeah, the plateau
Yeah.
platter.
Or if you drop a shrimp, it's got to fall 3 seconds before it hits the table.
That's the rule.
It looked really nice, and it was really nice. We enjoyed it. It was a perfect way to end the evening. So there you go. Second arrondissement, extreme nostalgia for us
Yeah.
walking around.
Well, that isn't all. We also popped into Harry's New York bar.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, nothing to forget because it was really good.
So they claim at Harry's that they invented the Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
So that was my order of the day.
Did they have a printout of a pixelated Bloody Mary? No.
Really good point.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. Imagine, that's the difference. Like you see that on the internet and maybe it says it on a little menu or something. But,
Sure.
But imagine if they had that.
It's
That
just
ruins
tacky.
it. Yeah, it's tacky.
No, but this was really cool. I feel like it felt very genuine. You know, it's all dark wood paneled interior with all these American, is it university flags?
Yeah, I don't know.
With lots of different colors.
Yeah.
All through the pub. It's more like a pub feeling.
You know what it reminded me of?
Huh?
And I'm treading dangerously here.
Yeah.
the Bar Hemingway in the Ritz.
Ah, yeah. No, I see it.
It had that kind of vibe, but it's sort of
Like a grittier one.
a grittier vibe.
Yeah.
And now this is the controversy.
In a really good way. Like gritty in a good way.
Yeah. Here's the controversy.
Oh.
I prefer Harry's.
Uh-huh.
The Hemingway bar has become too touristy.
Yeah.
You have to line up for an hour to get in.
I feel like Hemingway would have hated it.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think he would have liked it.
He would not have waited an hour.
Well, I don't think he would have had to wait to get in because his name's on the front. No, but you're right. It's if you want to have an experience like that, go to Harry's. It's probably a third of the price as well. Mm-hmm. Get the Bloody Mary. There's your story.
I mean, the Ritz is obviously very nice. Obviously, it's lovely, but yeah.
I wonder if they'll get a shout out in the first arrondissement next week.
We'll see.
Time will tell. Mm-hmm. So that winds it up for our thoughts on the things that we visited. Here come the scores, which have proved divisive, not just between me and you, but between some of the listeners.
I know.
There's a lot of, people get quite deeply into the logic surrounding.
Guess what? There's not much logic.
But I would like to say this, at the end of the season, someone did make a really good point. When we went to the 20th arrondissement, we had nothing to compare it to.
Yeah, it's so true. I feel like we need to redo it somehow.
I think so. Well, what I think we should do is we should get whatever's the most expensive arrondissement, we should decide each, and that should get 1 out of 10. And whatever's the cheapest should have 10. It should be 1 to 10.
And you can only use the number once?
Twice, because there's 1 to 10 and there's 20 arrondissements.
Yeah.
So the 7th and the 8th would both get 1 point.
Okay.
And I think the whole score, and the other thing that doesn't make sense is now we're at the 2nd, we have the previous 18 to compare it to, whereas before we had nothing to compare it to.
Yeah, it makes way sense.
Now, the points, usually we haven't heard each other's, but seeming this is a re-score, there shan't be any surprises here, I guess.
Okay, well, we have short memories, so...
That's true. Strollability.
9.
I gave it a 10.
Yeah, fair enough.
Affordability.
3.
Yeah, this was the only one that we disagreed on. I said 6.
Yeah, and I think you're way off.
Well, I didn't pay to get into Starbucks, and the tower was €6. No, but you're right. Like, in the grand scheme of things, this would have been one of the more expensive ones. Yeah. I think like in the 20th, there were no restaurants really that were as expensive as the Grand Colbert. No. For example. No. Yeah, I think you were more right on that one.
Shareability?
8.
10.
No, the 10s are back.
The 10s are back,
Lynn,
and they're
you've
strong.
given so many 10s in the past 4 weeks.
I know. It is, it's become a habit.
You're going to have to rein in with the 10s if we rescore everything.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
Touristability?
Touristability, and 9.
Is touristability a word, by the way? After 19 episodes.
I don't know. It is now.
I gave it an 8.
Yeah.
Quite touristy. No mega hits.
Yeah.
Remember we said that about the 4th arrondissement? And then someone emailed in saying... I said, if you were to list the top 50 things to do in Paris, none are in the 4th. Someone messaged me, go, what about Notre Dame? And I was like,
cool. Yeah, good point.
Cool. Accessibility.
A 10.
I gave it a cool 10 as well.
It's a cool.
Very small, very central, very easy to get around.
Yeah.
What does that add up to for you?
41.
I gave it a 42.
Yeah,
so 42, which makes 83. And that puts it... I've got it up in front of me.
It is not a leader.
No. That puts it in, I think, 4th place.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to have a look. Yes, indeed, 4th place. I'll go over the scores so everyone can figure out what's going to happen next week for the first. First place so far, 4th arrondissement, the Marais, with 91 out of 100. Would have lost points for being expensive. Yeah. Second place, the 3rd, with 85. Mm-hmm. So no matter what, the 4th and the 3rd are going to make the top 3. So congratulations to them.
Ooh.
The 3rd place goes to the 5th arrondissement. That's kind of a surprise package for me.
Yeah. I think it's because it's cheaper.
Yeah. And that came at 84. And then we've got in 4th place is the 2nd arrondissement.
Yeah.
That's all a bit confusing when you say it out loud. It makes sense if you look at the table that we share on social media. That winds it up for this episode. Next week, we'll be in the first.
For the last.
The first for the last.
How weird.
And this is a very famous district. There's some super popular things. I'm thinking about like the Louvre Museum.
Yep.
Famous gardens, famous bridges. I'm seriously excited to go and check it out. And we've booked some kind of also nostalgic. We've booked some fun activities, and I think it's going to be a good episode. Thanks to everyone who made this episode possible too, behind the scenes. You know who you are, and that will do for us. Lina, merci beaucoup.
Thank you.